morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's Thursday morning, I think it is. Yeah, Thursday morning. What you're seeing playing right now is some of the footage that I took on Monday afternoon when I was there in St Michael's. It's about 25 miles away from where I live. St Michael's is a little village where 45-year-old mother Nicola Bulley disappeared. We're now into the 13th day of her disappearance. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. She disappeared on the morning of January 27th of this year. So we're now 13 days into this search. And quite frankly, it's become a three-ring circus. I did say at the beginning of this case that you are going to see a different side to me. Normally I'm very calm when I talk about cases, but in this case I've been much more abrasive, I've been much more direct, I've been much more critical of people who are speculating and coming up with wild theories that could not possibly have happened, whilst ignoring all of the evidence that's been put forth to date. Having said that, having all eyes on this case, just the amount of publicity it's received, has obviously got a good side to it, that it's keeping Nicola's name and face out there in the media. But it's not helping when so-called experts come along and sadly give the family false hope. That's wrong. This footage that you're watching right now is the unedited file. Because originally, when I showed this in my live stream on Monday evening, I did edit it a little bit. I edited out people. I edited out places where my camera was really, really shaky. But this is the unedited file. So if you're feeling a little bit dizzy in places, well, it's unedited, okay? And this is the upper field where Nicola was last seen. So the last proof of life was 9:10 by a dog walker who recognised Nicola. The police did a press conference a couple of days ago now, and the media picked up on the possibility of Nicola disappearing without being seen off the field. They originally said they don't believe Nicola left the riverside area. But there's one exit where there's possibility of someone leaving without being seen because it's not directly covered by CCTV. So they've got to exclude all possible angles. Imagine the amount of criticism that they'd come under if they didn't cover all possible angles. They've been very upfront with their investigation. And they've said that they believe Nicola has fallen in the river. However, they've got to cover all bases. They've got to. This is missing persons inquiry. If they don't investigate leads that are given to them, then they wouldn't be doing their job. But that doesn't mean to say that they don't believe that Nicola is in the river. Now, the search team from down south, SGI, arrived on Monday morning, did a walk around, were there when I was there. I didn't see Peter. He was presumably downstream. They started at the weir on Monday afternoon. They did a walk around Monday morning. They started at the weir, believing, I heard this with my own ears from one of the searchers, believing that she'd gone over the weir. So this is my footage from the weir. It's only a few hundred yards from the bench area to the weir, and they searched a little bit down the weir. Now, I've heard varying stories. I've heard that they searched 3 to 4 miles. I've heard 2 miles. So we don't know how far downstream past the weir they actually searched. Then the following day, Peter went back to his original theory that the phone might have been left on the bench as a decoy, and therefore he decided to search upstream. Upstream is the place where I paddled. Upstream is very shallow. This is the secret beach, as the locals call it. It's very shallow. I didn't go right into the middle but it was kind of soft, sandy. I wasn't sure how much it would take my weight. What I did find, though, interestingly, was this little channel only got 149 subscribers. And this person does wild swimming. And he went and swam in the exact spot where I went in. There's the secret beach. Now, I think the river must have been slightly higher when this guy went, because he did seem to be able to swim, but he went into the middle. But it still wasn't deep at all. Like, when he stood up, it was only like waist high. But I think it was a little bit higher than when I was there. So this is the area that Peter and his team searched on Tuesday. There is no way that Nicola would have been in this stretch of river. But it is easier to search this stretch of river. So somebody who is, let's say, for example, wanting the publicity, let's just say, for example, because they've got a new book, and a cynic might say, all he did this for is to get national publicity for his book. But of course, I'm not a cynic, so I don't think that. And yeah, they got some nice drone shots, some nice pictures, and yeah, they searched upstream this area down to the bench area, the area where the police had searched multiple times, and they concluded that she wasn't there. Now, to be fair, Peter has been misquoted. To be fair, he has, because he hasn't said she's not in the river. He said she's not in the river where they searched, but they actually only searched a very small proportion of that river. Did media on Wednesday, lots of media on Wednesday, and then dramatically left and quit, saying it's baffling. So this guy is, yeah, he's in the river here. And when he stands up, I would say it's about waist high on him. And this is the very calm area of the river. The river gets a little bit more animated, shall we say, when, oh, he's going to stand up now. Oh, no, he's not. Anyway, there's a place where he stands up, and it's about waist height, maybe a little bit higher than waist height. But like I said, it was shallower when I went there. I think I didn't go right in the middle. But when the River Brock joins the river, there you go, he stands up, so it's about waist height. When the River Brock joins at the confluence, and then it goes round the Oxbow, the current picks up. It's not useful when people are saying that she's not in the river, when only a very small proportion of it has been searched by the expert who's done lots of media. Meanwhile, people have ignored statements that he made like this. So this would have been, I think, Tuesday morning. Speaking on Good Morning Britain, Mr. Fylde said bodies can get lodged in reeds and show up months later. The sonar won't go into the reeds, but then that's the idea of the divers. And as I said before, it was originally searched when she supposedly went in. He said police divers have already thoroughly searched that stretch of the river and wouldn't have missed anything. However, he went back and rechecked it. However, specialist equipment used by his team could help completely rule out anything. Normally, when we deal with drowning victims, they go to the bottom and they will stay there for a while. The police divers have done a thorough search of that river twice and nothing was found. So when he says they've done the river twice, what he actually means is they've done that very small section of river where they believe she fell in, not the entire river. And he's quoted here saying, "It's a total mystery to me. I really don't know. In all the searches I've done, this is one which will stick with me. Normally we get tasked with, searching for a knife or a body, and there's a witness to a drowning. or we've got really good intelligence. The sort of information we've got here is a mobile phone on a bench, but we don't know anything else. He's baffled, out of his depth, shall we say. But what Peter and his team didn't factor in is the fact that there was a witness. There was a witness. It's just unfortunate that that witness doesn't speak English or doesn't even speak human. Now, people have criticised me and said, why are you criticising the experts when you're not an expert? Okay. Well, I've known dogs all my life, over 50 years. I read dogs better than I read humans. So although I've got over 20 years of experience in forensic psychology, that's forensic psychology in human settings, crimes, crime scenes, understanding the psychology of the victim. And no, I'm not a sonar expert. I'm not an expert in the tides in that particular area. I'm not an expert on that particular river. But there are experts that have weighed in. St Michael's Angling Association, for example, who help maintain that river, have said that the river through St Michael's is dangerous. Although it's not deep, it's got undercurrents that you don't expect. The bankings are high, and they absolutely are. I would say the place at the bench, I would say from the edge of the bank to the riverbed, I'd say it's at least 10 feet. So, yeah, one thing Peter did say about the area around the bench was that there was nothing there, i.e. Nicola wasn't there, but there were jagged rocks. Jagged rocks. So I speculated in my live stream yesterday that if Nicola had fallen over the edge, smacked her head on these jagged rocks and knocked herself out and didn't die immediately, then she would still have buoyancy because she would still be breathing. She would be unconscious, but she'd still be breathing. So she wouldn't just sink like a stone to the bottom of the river like Peter suggested drowned victims do. Not immediately. What she would do is she would float because there's air in her lungs. And the problem has been the length of time it took for the alarm to be raised. What do I mean by that? We know that Nicola was alive and well at 9:10 because she was seen in the upper field. And we also know that Lancashire police believe her phone was at that bench at 9:20. But she didn't log off the work conference call that she was on at 9:30. So whatever happened between 9:20 and 9:30. This timeline comes from Nicola's friend, who's been posting timelines up on social media. So as more information's been learnt, she's been updated, which has been very useful. So this is the words of one of Nicola's friends. 9:33, dog walker found mobile phone on bench, harness with lead attached between the bench and the river, and dog agitated between the bench and the stile. Willow was agitated. Agitated dogs run around, they whine, they try to find help, so presumably she might have run up to the human that arrived. And there's a very small distance between the bench and the stile. This is the footage I took on that day of the bench and the stile. It becomes quite steep down to the riverbank, but it's only a short, I'd say about 20 feet to the edge, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. I didn't measure it. But, yeah, Willow was agitated. It's easy to criticise. It's easy to be wise in the benefit of hindsight. But I just wish, I really wish that this dog walker hadn't just tied up Willow She tied her up with a piece of string. Now, I don't know why she had string on her. I don't think it's suspicious. People carry all sorts of things on their person or in a bag. I've no idea why she had string on her, why she didn't just use Willow's lead, you know, put her harness on and put a lead on. I don't know why she did that, but she returned home. She informed a family member that there was a fawn and a dog at the bench, but she had an appointment, so she left the family friend with the task of sorting this out. But it was only at 10:50. Now, let's say Nicola fell off that riverbank at, let's say, 9:20. It's an hour and a half before the alarm was raised. All that time, Willow was tied up, presumably tied to the bench or tied to the fence. This is missing time. This is an hour and 15 minutes of missing time. Did nobody else pass by that bench area and see Willow tied up between 9:33 and 10:50 when the alarm was raised? I don't know. Maybe they didn't, but maybe they didn't think anything of it. I don't know. It's a big question mark. But at 10:50, this family member who'd been tasked with dealing with this, maybe he just didn't think it was too much of an emergency. I don't know. I don't know what they thought. You've got to be wise in the benefit of hindsight. You're always wise in the benefit of hindsight. When you're actually there, you don't maybe recognise the emergency. You don't recognise the dog's agitated or think about the reason why the dog might be agitated. But it's at 10:50 that the friend went to the bench, recognised Willow, recognised the fawn, and called the school. Now, maybe this person has kids at the school and recognises Nicola from the school, so rang the school, who then rang Paul. Maybe this friend didn't have Paul's number. It was at that point then that Paul rang the police and made his way to get Willow. If Nicola was unconscious because she'd banged her head on jagged rocks, then in an hour and a half, she would have easily, even though the current's pretty slow, easily would have floated out of sight. You know, because it's a 10-foot drop down, you can't see the river from the bench. So unless you're specifically looking and go to the edge and look down. So if Nicola had been unconscious in the river and kind of, you know, floating for at least a time, because a breathing body is buoyant, at least the top half of them is because of the air in the lungs, she'd have easily been dragged down once her clothes became waterlogged. But in 1.5 hours, I think her body could have floated just a few yards around the bend. And then police, divers and search and rescue, the ground searchers, the dogs, they were deployed. The first search and rescue team was deployed at midday. And by Monday afternoon, the entire area was swamped with searchers. But by that time, I think Nicola's body, most probably deceased by this time, has managed to get past the weir. And at the weir, that river becomes tidal. Now, there's so many people who've talked about this case and have completely ignored the one witness to this unfortunate accident, and that's Willow. They've ignored her. The woman who found her tied her up and ignored her. And people who are commentating on this case have ignored her. But not everybody has ignored her. You know, people on Twitter are saying, look, if they think she's left the towpath without being caught on CCTV, it's not possible because Willow would have followed. Absolutely, 100% agree. The Daily Express a few days ago actually got a quote. I think he spoke to the Times. Colin Tennant, director of the Cambridge Institute of Dog Behaviour and Training, said the missing mum's pet could hold the key to solving the case, as dogs often return to the last spot where they were with their missing owner. He said, can pick up locational scent. Each area of land has its own peculiar scent, maps the land with the olfactory system. So dogs have got a mental map of the areas that they frequent using their primary sense, which is smell, the sense of smell. Our primary sense is vision. A dog's is smell. So they have a mental map of their area, not using vision, but using the sense of smell. So she will smell the bank and keep going back to that scent. She will often migrate back to the last spot where she was with the owner, because that's the pack leader. But Willow was tied up. Willow was tied up from 9:33 till 10:50. So if anybody did pass by, they wouldn't have seen Willow waiting by the bank, trying to get down the bank. They'd have seen a dog tied to a bench. Maybe no one passed by in that time. He wrote, if an owner is walking along the river and fell in and went under, or the river carried him off, the dog would be absolutely perplexed, because she doesn't understand water like we do. She has no capacity for that. Dogs don't have object permanence. If the owner was screaming or shouting, that could increase the dog's confusion. So I've been saying this all along, but I'm not an expert. Right? I've known dogs for over 50 years. I've had dogs for over 50 years, but I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert. All right. So Cassie showed that she wasn't going to go down a 10-foot banking. She's like a mountain goat, but she's not going to jump down a 10-foot banking. And if Nicola was unconscious, she wasn't screaming and shouting, she wasn't alerting people to her plight. And Willow was completely confused. And then when she saw a human just a few minutes later, she was agitated. She was trying to tell that human the problem, and the human didn't listen. So that's my opinion of this case. Yes, the questions remain. Why wasn't the alarm raised earlier? Nicola could have been found very quickly. But once the river took her, the river took her. Peter the expert agreed that bodies can get stuck in reeds or banks. The River Wyre is full of sandbanks. It's full of silt. The police and the searchers who are not giving up, who haven't just looked at the shallow end, haven't just paddled in the shallow end, and are actually invested in finding Nicola, are working their way out towards the estuary. It was said at the latest press conference they were looking at Morecambe Bay from Knott End to Morecambe. So if you're in that area, could you please go and just walk along the beach? Please don't walk into the bay itself if the tide's out, because it's very, very dangerous. There's quicksand. The tides come in really, really quickly. But of course, you know that if you're in the area. All right, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. I've been Michelle. Hope you're well. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. All right, so we'll go back this way.